Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Whatever time of day you're tuning in, we're glad that you're here. Welcome to the Mantel Group Fireside Chat, your monthly dose of real talk at the intersection of sales and marketing. Each month, we sit down with a leading industry expert to explore fresh perspectives, hard-earned insights, and emerging trends, all through the lens of sales and marketing strategy. Your data is at the center of everything that you do, and if you know how to use it, it ultimately helps you grow as a company. Which begs the question, are you using your data in the most efficient way possible? Today, our guest Jaap talks about what he encounters with clients and the data that they have. Have a listen. What is it about the data itself that a company isn't getting, or what should they be looking for that maybe they're not?
Well, it's either reactive or proactive,
Okay.
meaning that you either look at it as a problem or you look at it as a limiter for a solution. And so we either look at it as a problem, as in you're storing illegal data, you're storing passwords, your data is exposed internally, externally. If you want to secure data, congratulations, but you need to find it first. So what exactly are you protecting? So you can have 15 layers of protection over your data, right? We all know it's that one friendly lady or receptionist or something that is trying to help that African prince move his money into Nigeria. It's really gonna mean that those 15 layers are now breached, and then the question is, what kind of access does that person now have? And when they have access, what is now potentially compromised? If you don't know what data you have, how can you be compliant? How can you limit exposure? How can you protect it? You certainly cannot use it for AI, so stop having that conversation until you sort this out. And if you have a data breach, oh boy.
There's a lot to unpack here with Jaap, so without further ado, sit back, relax, and let's dive right into it. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Mantel Fireside Chat. I am so excited that you are back here joining us yet again for another exciting episode. I know the past couple of episodes we have taken and kind of gone down the route of marketing, we've gone down a couple route of sales. We're bringing it back to data this time. We've spoken to a couple data experts, a couple folks that play around in data and stuff like that over a couple podcasts. It's been a minute since we've done that, so I thought, you know what? Let's revisit the topic with today's guest. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Jaap Mantel. He is the general manager. Now, this is going to sound a little bit more standard of a title, if you will, but I promise there's a lot more to our guest today than just his title reads. So he's the general manager for data and more. There's a lot to unpack there because you have a lot of stuff on your LinkedIn that talks about how you're a data enthusiast, how you've been playing around with data for years and years and years of your life. So I want to dig into all of that, and we'll dive into it and what it means to you and whatnot over a period of time. But first off, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today?
Awesome, man. Thanks for having me. This is I think something we've been planning to do for a while. So I'm happy that we found some time. We're able to connect.
Yeah.
I'm pretty excited, and been working with some of the guys from the Marshall Group for quite some time. Very happy, good people. So I'm pretty excited about this opportunity. So thanks so much for having me, man.
Yeah, absolutely, and I appreciate the kind words. I'll make sure to relay that over to the team and whatnot. Let's set the stage just a little bit here. If you don't mind, give us a background on who you are, what you do, your kind of involvement within data and all of these kind of worlds that you play in. Just to give us an idea of who we're getting to hear from today.
So like you said, I'm general manager for a software vendor called Data More. We effectively focus on identification, classification, and then the remediation or management of data. And I've been in the Microsoft space for almost 20 years now. I started back in the days when the product back in the days where it was called Tahoe, and Tahoe changed to SharePoint Server version 1, and kind of went through that whole journey from, okay, well, this is the dream. And back in the day, the dream, of course, of Microsoft was, well, SharePoint is the one product that's going to achieve the centralization of data forms and processes. And of course, you have many iterations of SharePoint. There's products that were acquired, like in '08, you had Fast Search, which then, of course, search is gonna, achieve findability of data, right? Because we need data. There's all kinds of workflow companies like Nintex back in the day. Then they started going cloud with BPaaS. Then it starts introducing into Office 365. Now I've been on the side of infrastructure, I've been on the sides of search-based applications, integrations. In other words, how can you find stuff? The answer is you can't. I've been on the side of services where companies effectively go to customers and like, hey, what do you want? We're fast, cheap, and good. We can do everything. Talk to us, and we're going to bill you like crazy. But I've also been on the side of presentation layers like internet out of the box and these type of things. So it's been quite a journey. Now, my one statement is that I'm looking for my unicorn. And
Okay.
the reason is that I have never met any company, like literally none, zero, that know what kind of data they have. None. And
Okay.
so I will literally give you money, invite you to every podcast. For my own money, I'll transfer you a card. Just reach out to Chris and I'll get it to you. But I'm looking for my unicorn, the first company that actually knows what kind of data they have, because it's kind of important. And initiatives like AI are really bringing out the problem here. It's like there's a big difference between gadget tools and excuse my, I'm just trying to simplify the argument here. There's a
Sure.
big difference between gadget tools and utilizing your data into things like Copilot or AI agents, everything else.
Mhm.
And so right now there's a big push where everybody must have AI and we all must have it. Consumption is amazing. Everything is
Mhm.
fantastic. Oh, wait a minute. I'm about to put a lot of sensitive and private data into my agents. What is going on? So that's really what I do a lot. And I get to be nice and confrontational because I get to tell people they don't know what data they have.
Mhm.
So whatever initiative they have is going to suffer. And combine that with my Dutch heritage, I get to be a little confrontational now and then, of course. But now I'm Canadian. I'm actually going to be officially Canadian August 12th. So I'm very excited about that.
Nice.
I know,
Congrats.
hard work. Thank you. Thank you. So even though I'm a little confrontational, I learned how to wrap it up very nicely and just in the nicest way possible explain to people that they don't know what they're doing.
And I think I remember our initial conversation. You were talking about traveling to Texas and then describing
Yeah.
where you are now is like you're basically the Texas of the North, right? I think that was essentially the
Yeah.
description that you gave it back in back a couple months ago. But oh, I appreciate
Correct.
the
Correct.
background and everything like that. It's exciting to hear about the status update and whatnot. Now, I am not a numbers person. I will tell you that right now. I am not very much of a numbers person. Calculus, math, analytics. A lot of those classes in college did not come very well to me. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm curious to understand the journey of how you came into this. Was it like something that you've just always enjoyed playing with numbers and understanding data and everything there, or was this something you kind of like fell into? How did this happen for you to put you in the role that you're in today?
Yeah. So I'm kind of like your opposite. I love numbers. Numbers make
Okay,
sense. Numbers don't have feelings. Numbers don't get offended.
that's a good point.
And so back in school, I even in college, I was 2 years ahead of everyone else when it comes down to math and calculus, because I literally just did that for fun. I think people in IT, when it, the common phrase is autistic, ADHD, not sure, not undiagnosed, but pretty sure there's something. So numbers to us kind of make a lot of sense. And so when I grew up, so I did all my college and uni years in the 90s, and of course the internet came out. So I ended up building websites on my notepad. I literally had to do. I went to business school and I ended up doing some internships where I went to a company. It's like, how about we skip all this nonsense? I don't work in your factory, but I built you a new website, and then you effectively sign off on these papers. Tell me when my teacher shows up. I'm going to slave away for a day, and then just give you a brand new website that's top notch.
All right.
And so that, yeah, so the hustling side kind of started kicking in pretty darn early. I would say that I'm pretty good in being creative when it
Mm,
comes down to solutions. And I grew up in the Netherlands. When I moved to England, I found a job with an international organization called AvePoint within IT, pretty well known. And they were at the time just expanding into Europe, so they were looking to hire bilingual people from all over the place. So I went for an interview at AvePoint. There was There was one guy who worked there with a guy who came over from the US. And so they were just hiring the second stage of everyone. And I showed up, did my interview, and I walk out the door and I got a call. I'm like, hey, can you start? And so that was kind of the start of my journey. And so, like, I've been on different sides within the whole SharePoint, Microsoft, Google ecosystem, but I've always stayed within that realm. So now when people are kind of throwing stuff at me, it's kind of like, oh, I need this. And then, you can speak a little bit to all kinds of different topics within the realm. And I like it. So IT, I think it's great. There's lots of opportunity. There's also a lot of fluff, and that's the part that
Okay.
really bugs me. There's a lot of just marketing, especially with AI now. It's just people that promising the end of the world, but in the end of the days, there's a lot of fluff.
Mm.
And eventually the fluff has to pass before real solutions start getting through. And so yeah, I never left. I liked it. I climbed the ladders over and over and over, and effectively ended up where I'm at now. And I'm just having a good time. Occasionally travels a bit much. Like I spent the last 2 weeks traveling in Texas and Toronto and Ottawa and everything else. And yes, so I live in Alberta now. We call ourselves the Texas of the North. That's just because
Yes.
we have a whole bunch of cowboys and etc. So the Stampede was here a few weeks ago. We did some stuff with a partner of ours.
Nice.
So yeah, it's the first time I got to see the Stampede. Got some mixed feelings on that, but I love the people, love the crowd, love the atmosphere, love the lifestyle.
I love
So yeah,
that.
I'm never moving. I'm staying.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Now, God, there's so many questions that I have after
go
hearing
for it.
that journey. But the first thing I want to ask though is, out of all the roles that you've had, or kind of like experience that you've had, all the ladder climbing that you just mentioned, what's what about it excites you the most about what you do? Like, what's the aha moment in terms of, like, is it, solving a problem? Is it coming up with a solution that just propels, maybe like a business forward? Like, what's that aha moment that just gets you excited to continue doing what you do every day?
I would say that it's coming to a plan that adds real value to the customer.
Okay.
And that also means that as a provider or a vendor or a partner, I'm not afraid to walk away from deals. Like when
Mm,
I come to the conclusion where actually there's a better solution for you, you're not actually looking for me, you're looking for company X, for example.
sure.
It's better to walk away. And then I've done it for so long that now people come back to me. I'm like, I wasn't looking for you, but now I am.
Mm,
And my Dutch side is just very brutally honest. Like the Dutch in communication style are the opposite of the Canadians, right?
hmm.
The Dutch use language as a communication style to get a point across, and they really don't care about your feelings, and they assume that you don't care about my feelings, and that's how we
Hmm.
communicate.
Yeah.
But in Canada, US, Britain, Australia, language is more of a journey itself and the
Okay.
way that you present stuff, which is super interesting. But bringing it all together, going to a customer, knowing you can really help them, and then not just provide them with a lot of fancy word, but actually with a plan, with proven track records, everything else, and then seeing that customer thrive and greatly benefit from what you're doing. Honestly, to me, that's really the goal. That makes me happy because that means that they're going to tell 20, 10, 20 people about us, which allows me to grow. Because my definition of a good sale is where everybody wins. And
Yeah.
if we can't maintain that standard, we should be going and working with someone else. If
Hmm.
the partner is trying to screw them over, or if something else happens, if there's short-sightedness, these type of things, it becomes a problem. So being able to walk away from deals, but making sure that once you close are very successful, that's very important to me.
Well, I think that's also huge in the position that you're in, and for anyone out there who's trying to do business. If you're willing to walk away from a deal, and kind of like you said, like, hey, you don't need me, you need this company or this person or this solution. Like, being willing to suggest that, knowing that you're walking away from a deal, and giving that prospective client kind of a different opportunity or a different solution, that
Mhm.
builds a lot of rapport and trust with you too. And that's for anyone, no matter what industry you're in, like that's a huge skill that I think a lot of people tend to overlook. They want to keep everything kind of close to their chest and think that like, oh, like I can't help you, so good luck, hope you win. Like you're on your own, and that's just
Hmm.
that's not really a good way to operate, at least in my opinion, right?
No, because you can only ruin your reputation once. And
Bingo.
so I'm a little bit of a networker. Like I go places, I build networks, and that's
Mhm.
why sometimes I still have people from the UK, Australia, because I lived in Australia for a while as well. But I still have people internationally just reaching out to me like, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And that's just because you're building trust. And so yeah,
There's kind of two routes that I want to take here because I definitely want to dig
sure.
into like data classification, some of the things that you're very passionate about, what you do now, kind of what it means for businesses. There's also the AI route that I think we need to go down too because I think
Okay.
I'm very interested to hear your thoughts on AI. Because there's a lot of people out there that are adopting it. There's a tech podcast that I listen to where like every app on the market is trying to introduce some form of AI into it, and it's just becoming like very clunky, for lack of a better phrase. But
Hmm.
let's talk about the data classification stuff first. And you even kind of said, "Hey, I challenge anybody." Paraphrasing, of course. You
Of
said you
course.
would pay a company money to come out and tell you exactly the type of data that they have. And I'm going to assume that you have not run into a single company out there who has been able to who has needed something from you and been able to say, "Here's exactly what I have," or accurately describe to you the things that they're collecting. Is that correct?
It's still, yeah, the count is still zero.
Wow. So
It's still zero.
what would you advise of a company to start understanding about their data in order to be able to potentially meet that challenge, if that makes sense? Like what is it about
Um,
the data itself that a company isn't getting, or what should they be looking for that maybe they're not?
Well, it's either reactive or proactive,
Okay.
meaning that you either look at it as a problem or you look at it as a limiter for a solution. And um, so we either look at it as a problem, as in you're storing illegal data, you're storing passwords, your
Mm-hmm.
data is exposed internally, externally. Um, if you want to secure data, congratulations, but you need to find it first. So what exactly are you protecting? So you can have 15 layers of protection over your data, right? We all know it's that one friendly lady or receptionist or something that is trying to help that African prince move his money into Nigeria. It's really going to mean that those 15 layers are now breached. And
Yep.
then the question is, what kind of access does that person now have? And when they have access, what is now potentially compromised? So what do we do about it? So we tend to do projects within five, six different areas. So we have governance, risk, compliance. In
Mm-hmm.
governance, we're talking about data needs to be in the right place,
Sure.
mergers, acquisitions, migrations, just data governance general. Risk is kind of like, okay, now we have data, but who has access to it?
Mm-hmm.
Where are the copies of data? Because usually people are like, oh, we have super ultra sensitive location, SharePoint.management.com, and I'm like, hey, here's on average 8 copies in your Exchange, in your OneDrive, backed up to SharePoint. Oh, and here's all the people, internally, externally, applications, and vendors that have access to these files. Oh, and we find crazy stuff. Like we go through entire company reports to IT people that store entire password list, including root access to their data systems, that we have to wake people up sometimes at 4 o'clock in the morning. Be like, get your butt out of bed, change
Mm-hmm.
these passwords, because two things, it's all over the dark web. That's how we found you. And second, here are your passwords.
Yeah.
And where they start sweating, and then we explain to them, we haven't done anything. We're just the first person that found it. Congratulations, you're lucky. But it's also the AI journey because AI, a lot of people look at AI as kind of like, well, we have data, we can buy AI. Let's put these two together and we create magic fairy dust. And then people starting to realize, like, well, actually, there's about thousands of passwords being introduced into
Mm-hmm.
this language model. Oh, well, Copilot respects the permissions of the location. Well, this location everyone in the company has access to. So now I'm doing demos for people asking their Copilot, show me all the passwords. Oh, here's a list of all the passwords for the different people, different systems, different everything.
Mm-hmm.
So that is one example, but it can get a lot more sensitive. So we find that sometimes people just upload their personal holiday pictures and everything else to their OneDrives, and they're about to have it ingested by language models, which means that companies are literally about to ingest 6-year-old little girls in bikinis into your language models. Congratulations. So there's more and more legislation coming out. So in New York, for example, I think 1 or 2 weeks ago, it came out that any company that uses language model has to publicize what training data they have provided for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in Europe, we're seeing all kinds of other trends where, for example, in Denmark, your personal face, the likes of it, as well as any caricature of it, is personal property of that person, and you cannot use it. So it's getting more strict. People are starting to see more dangers, more problems with just unfederated access dumps of data into language models that creates personal and business problems. But it goes a lot further. So that's number five. Sorry, four. Number five is really the aspect of security, where
Yeah.
people have, like, we have so many protections, so many layers, but it's usually all on a company-wide level. If you're looking into okay, well, what kind of data do you actually have? The first answer that you get is, well, we don't really know. The second thing is, well, if you don't know, then how can you tell me that my data is protected, labeled, tagged, and mapped correctly, only has access to the right people? And if there's a data breach, what are the consequences? So then number six is really the data breach aspect of it. So part of it is just reactive. We have a data breach,
Right.
we need to be compliant and everything else. The other one is proactive. We need to protect data, we need to do something with AI, we have a governance, we do mergers, we do acquisitions, do migrations, so organization. So those are really the areas that we help organizations in. But again, if you don't know what data you have, how can you be compliant? How can you limit exposure? How can you protect it? You certainly cannot use it for AI, so stop having that conversation until you sort this out. And if you have a data breach, oh boy.
Yeah.
And so those are the conversations that we tend to have around data classification.
Now, I'm going to assume that this is probably a pretty self-explanatory, like very simple answer, but it's the question is data classification, right? Like it is. I would assume that you would say that it's an essential thing that every company needs to be thinking about in terms of their ability to grow, to continue to do business, to continue to evolve and change and do all the things that they're kind of set out to do, right? This is probably something that everyone should be thinking about in some shape, way, or form, at least at like a leadership level within an organization. Is that right?
I mean, I'm severely jaded because I sell this stuff.
Sure.
But the answer is absolutely. Now, the downside is that for the last 20 years, promises around data classification have been made. None of them have been delivered.
Okay.
And we have now been trained as organizations and people to simply accept the reality is that we don't know what data we have. We don't know where it is. Now, we're also getting to a point when the risks are starting to outweigh the benefits of it. So again, the risks of getting fined, reputation damage, having sensitive data all over the place, the risks are getting greater and greater because also the hacking side is getting more and more advanced, and we see more and more stuff around, well, data breaches, people getting hacked and everything else. So as that side is developing, and even on look on a global scale, China doesn't give a rat's behind about your privacy or anything else. They dump whatever they want into their language models.
Mm-hmm.
So now what we're seeing is that, well, back here in the West, we don't want that for good reason, but it does lead to consequences. And that's why, for example, Elon Musk with Grok, his AI solution is basically making the case in courts, like we are going to get left behind. So even as a society here in the West, we're talking about AI, but effectively, if you're not dealing with data classification, we are literally competing with every guy in a few GPU servers because that's all we're
Mm.
delivering. The only thing right now we're delivering is optimization of processes and effectively gadgets. Gadgets as in help me rewrite my email, help me rewrite my LinkedIn post so everything looks the same on LinkedIn now. It's the gadget side that's improving, but if organizations aren't able to map their data to an AI system, that means that the whole world is going to jump ahead because they don't care about the rules and regulations. Now,
Yep.
I'm not saying the rules and regulations shouldn't be there. I'm very happy that they are and they are protecting us. But the reality is that the other countries don't give a rat's behind about their people or anything else. So we are falling behind. We're on, if I look on LinkedIn, and we're like the market leaders of the world times five, but we're not.
Hmm.
And that's because we're not taking care of what matters most, and that is our data. So we are going to fall behind. We can only tell ourselves so much that we're leading, but there's a lot of stumbling blocks. And if we
Yep.
don't tackle data classification and the right data, then yeah, forget it.
Out of the six or so points that you just mentioned, right, about being
Yep.
proactive, reactive, are there any of those that are like commonalities of what companies are mostly overlooking? Is there any like commonalities between companies to where like, yes, I'm thinking about a couple of these things, but most companies are not thinking about like X, Y, and Z or whatever it is?
It's definitely territorial based.
Okay.
So in Europe, you have GDPR and they're
Mm-hmm.
enforcing it. In most of the US, it's not. Now, California right now has a massive market, but the government has no money.
Yep.
So California has started to find a living crap out of its people and organizations that live there because they're trying to get money. So they started enforcing fines.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we're seeing, even in the last month, we're seeing that Texas, for example, fined Google $1.4 billion in fines for
Wow.
illegally using data. Now, a few months before that, Texas fined Meta with Llama in the same way, $1.4 billion. In California, in California, the government fined Google for illegally using all Android data for their language models. Now, these
Ah.
fines are coming over more and more and more and more, and this is not data breach. This is willful neglect of data. So companies like that have to make that jump. They have to get that data. To them, it's just operational cost. But to any company that's listening, probably not the CEO of Microsoft and Google, but to the people that are listening, I don't have the money, even in my company, to pay $10 million or whatever. Like that would borderline bankrupt us. And if you have that money, congratulations. But that's effectively where we're going to.
Yeah.
If we don't build our foundation solidly, and there's either a biblical example or a bedtime story here about three wolves and a house building exercise here. But if we don't build our houses properly, if we build
Right.
it on woods or clay or whatever it is, it's going to have consequences for what we're doing. Because right now everyone wants AI, no one's really doing AI unless it's on the process side of things. When it comes down to actually using your data, getting ahead of the curve, the market, your vertical, whatever you're operating in, you need to sort out your data so you can utilize it correctly.
Now let me ask this, because I'm curious to hear what your answer is.
Sure.
We're talking about AI, a little bit here and there, and kind of the use of it, making sure that we're using it properly. No one's really doing it. AI to me, as kind of, again, not a data person, right? Not somebody who really uses it a ton. I interact with it here and there just to like help me come up with creative ideas or help me come up with like YouTube title ideas or whatever it is. Very simple stuff on like ChatGPT. Is AI necessary for companies and the way that they're thinking about their data? Like, is it a necessary thing that companies need to get into, or is it something where because AI still feels a little bit of kind of like the Wild West, companies can kind of stay away from it for a while?
I mean that's super specific to what vertical you're in. There are a lot of things that you can automate that really should be automated. Well, my favorite example for is in healthcare, where an AI agent can look at a scan of your eye
Hmm.
and apply 20 billion reviews on it in a second,
Wow.
analyze where the problem is, even do the operation itself. So there's been people that have been borderline blind that walk away with more than 20/20 vision because they analyzed over 20 billion patterns and potential solutions, pick the one that is the least risk with the highest reward, and that's something that we're going to. In healthcare, what we're also seeing is that have now started to accept that generic medication of people can lead to a lot of problems within the extreme of the spectrum of things.
Hmm.
So what the healthcare is moving towards is kind of like, well, if we can analyze who you are, what your patterns are, your blood group, your type, and all kinds of patterns within who you are, whether you're a fan of it or not, but you're going to start seeing a lot of personalized medication. If you have an allergy towards fish, maybe we shouldn't put a pill with sardines in your body,
Yep.
right? So there's a lot of pros and cons. When it comes down to, for example, wholesale companies, warehouses, items, there's a lot of stuff that can be automated. So if you can analyze patterns where, well, on this day we need this much of this thing, like buying and selling can go extremely efficient.
Hmm.
If we're talking about services organizations tend to just want to sell man hours, right? It's kind
Yes.
of like a paper company operating in a digital workspace. It doesn't matter what the question is, the answer is we need a piece of paper. And so it sometimes that is counterintuitive. Now, I'll give you another example. So we are a software vendor,
Hmm.
and we have worked with all kinds of lead gen companies. That's how I got in contact with the Marshall Group. And we have started working with an AI agent. Now, the AI agent is never as good as a person,
Hmm.
at least not now. But that AI agent follows a script, is interactive, and can call several thousand people a day because it's a robot. Doesn't get angry, doesn't lose his thing,
Yeah.
it just goes. So there's a lot of innovation. The question is, do you adapt or do you go do something else?
Hmm.
And so within those realms, there's a lot of stuff that's going to disappear. People being able to answer a phone can be an agent. When I call people these days, it's a lot of, hey, this is a Google Assistant. Um, Tell me why you're calling and I'll relay the message.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
Yeah.
spam control. So there's a lot of stuff that's happening in that area. But that also means, of course, that on the gadget side, the people with ill will are also going to get better, right?
Hmm.
So is it necessary? Operationally, there's a lot of things that you can benefit from because the reality is you can pay several thousand bucks for a receptionist. I generally have no idea how much they get paid in what state and whatever. But I'm saying that you can pay them money, but you can also just have an AI agent make a call, classify it, qualify the call, I should say, and even just automate bookings and everything else. So there's a lot of stuff that people can do, like on the gadgety side, to really streamline and optimize and everything else. At the same time, so we as a company, we're not outsourcing, but that's kind of how we're designed to grow in many different ways.
Hmm.
At the same time, I am also often looking the other direction. So whenever
Yeah.
one goes towards automation, that's why I started doing traveling a lot. Where okay, let's go have a meal. I want to show some interest in this deal, your organization, and our friendship.
Hmm.
So the opposite also really applies, but almost I can't really think of any scenario where a company shouldn't be looking at AI, really, not if you want to grow and keep going.
It's to me, I kind of mentioned that tech podcast that I was listening to, where I think there's a lot of companies that are adopting it in some shape, way, or form. It almost feels like there are companies out there who don't really know specifically how to do it. They just, kind of your example, services companies, right? You look at a sales organization like ours, or you look at any other type of services organization where typically there's a human interaction somewhere in there. A lot of like marketing agencies and video production agencies and stuff like that, where like you need a human touch. You can use AI to aid you, right? To be an assistant or to automate something, but there still needs to be a human touch there. I feel
Of
like there's
course,
a lot of those services companies haven't exactly figured it out, but they're still pushing very hard that they have like AI capabilities, and it almost feels like they're pushing AI as I hesitate to say it, but for lack of a better phrase, a marketing gimmick, right? We're saying,
yes,
oh yeah, we have AI. We're shouting it from the rooftops. Check out all this cool stuff that we can
AI
do.
powered.
Bingo. We're all AI powered, and it's like, yeah, that's cool. You've probably got some intern who uses ChatGPT or some secretary, right, who can use ChatGPT to be an assistant to somebody else, right? And you know, kind of compounding that whole issue, which I think then you start running into problems with companies, right? You start running
Of course.
into where, companies are promising something that they're AI powered, but they use it for maybe 1% of everything that they do. Um,
Can I give you an example? Before I have a call, so we have a pro Gemini account, and I'm like, hey, I'm doing a podcast with the Marshall Group. What can you tell me about them?
yeah.
And it will just spin out. So normally I'm kind of like, okay, I'm meeting with this customer. Tell me about their locations, distribution centers, everything else, and it kind of lays it out. It's not me trying to cheat. It's me trying to be more efficient in the message that I'm conveying to them.
Yeah.
So this will tell you exactly about Marshall Group, when we founded, the sales as a service, that you guys do lead gen, appointment settings, and effectively it helps me and any company to understand, well, actually, if I'm looking for an AI powered platform, multi-channel approach, and focus on B2B tech, maybe this is a good conversation that I want to have with Marshall Group.
Mhm.
And so this is one of those examples that will help me to really speed things up to get to the point.
Curious to get kind of like your specific take, for companies that are looking to adopt AI or who are looking to integrate it more. I'm assuming that there are levels to like how they would want to integrate it and keeping some of the things in mind that you said about, data readiness, how it's
Sure.
organized, how it's protected, all that sort of stuff. Do you have any recommendations on like where companies should start? If you've got, startup A who, is I don't even know, like a service provider, we can always say, right? Like where would
Sure.
you advise they would start in terms of integrating that into what it is that they offer or what it is that they do?
So it really depends, again, on your data. And if you want to, I can even show you a little bit about what it looks like and everything else.
Mhm.
I'll start with this picture, and this is from Gartner. And they effectively explain that what they're saying is that, oh, that's not very pretty. What they're saying is that some of the best investments that people really should be looking at and should be making is, again, AI ready, data quality, an architecture that supports the delivery,
Yeah.
data integration, active metadata tools and practices, so tagging, mapping, labeling, everything else.
Mhm.
So what we do, and when we go through companies, is let me open this one. We do these assessment for companies. This was done, I think 2 weeks ago or something, and we effectively explain a little bit about who we are. We explain what we do, and we can do an assessment very, very quickly for a company where we just start doing a mapping of their data, how
Wow.
much they have, where it is, where it's located, and we kind of go through it. And the first thing, because that's our job when we do this assessment, to effectively scare you, right? We want to give you a reality check. And if you're not scared by having almost 4,000 items of travel information, recruitment IDs, passports, or things related to insurance, healthcare cards, or anything else, then, well, maybe you're the problem, not me. Um, but we kind of go through these things and we explain to people like compliance. This is we do maintain 3 month periods. That's just because of the courts, right?
Mhm.
If you go to court, you can kind of explain, well, this is new data, we're still processing it. But stuff that you have that's over 10, 20 years old, maybe it shouldn't exist anymore. So we
Yeah.
actively help organizations to quantify the risk, where it's located. And we've analyzed almost 4 billion data sets right now. And the reality is that almost 90% of everything that we find is an exchange. No matter what we do, what tool we introduce, everything tends to be an exchange. People are emailing everything. And I'm
Mhm.
pretty sure, Chris, if we do an assessment on your email account, it's going to look very, very similar as well. Because when we go through these things, it's not just oh, we found a passport. It goes a lot further. So, for example, when we go through data, we can explain to them, well, here's the distribution of data, meaning that maybe you have a location that's approved
Wow.
for health information, but maybe the other 87 locations that it's located aren't approved locations.
Mhm.
So maybe that shouldn't exist. So we kind of go through data of like, okay, what's your security data, your passports, everything else. Maybe we don't have to care about stuff that's less than a month year old or the stuff that's super old because passports change. But there's a big realm within here's what we find. So before you're about to dump all of this data into your language models or give Copilot access to it, we kind of go through it. So what are you looking for? Well, maybe there's some adjustment report or care custodies or anything else. There's a lot of stuff that we have that we can provide on data, what it is that we is, what it is that we're doing, and everything else. And then by the end, we can quantify risk. We're effectively using a number by IBM that put
Yeah.
a numeric value on how much is your data worth on the black market,
Wow.
and or how many fines are you going to get from either Trump or Mark Carney if you do get a data breach. So we kind of go through this, and even on the co-pilot, we can explain, well, maybe there's 48% of the mail accounts that you can give co-pilot access to, but if you do to any of the other ones, you are in breach of so many violations, it's not even funny. And we do the same, of course, with any locations where we can go through it. We can go, yeah, we can see it, and we'll show you all the examples.
Hmm.
Here's some of the passports. Here's some of the credit cards. Here's some of plain text passports. Here's some of case data. Here's something else. So we then effectively go through this data and present them a plan, where your quick wins are, and an implementation plan. What does it look like? So this is the stuff that we go through. This is what we do for any company that is really looking into AI or AI readiness, so they can have a conversation with us and make, for the first time in the history of their organization, data-driven decisions.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sure that that ends up trickling down into individual like departments within an organization as
Oh
well,
yeah,
right? It's not just big picture. How do we get from
no,
A to B in this roadmap? You're also getting into influencing how like the marketing department works, how the sales department works, how, communications work, all this sort of stuff. So like there is actually going back to your earlier example, right? There is a foundational way to build your home that you are working in order
yes.
to have the maximum like output or growth or just like forward trajectory for your organization. It all starts down with everything that you just kind of outlined. And
Yes.
I'm going to make a guess too, that it's probably a large majority of people aren't even aware that their company has breaches to the level of what you were just showing us, right? Who may not even realize that, there is personal data in emails, that there is, a large risk of hundreds of thousands of dollars in potential fines or, risks of data loss that they're just unaware of.
Yeah, so this company we did a few weeks ago, which is a company of only a few hundred people. We only took sample data of part of their systems, and the quantifiable risk was over $50 million.
Wow. That's
And
not
yeah, so that's
small.
a relatively no, it's not small. And the fact is, like, everybody knows, like, when you just stand still for a second and you start thinking about what do I have in my email, you kind of know
Yeah.
that it's there. You don't know what it is. Like, I checked yesterday, I think my inbox account is a few dozen gigabytes. Oh, there's got to be some stuff. There's passwords. There's contracts, employment contracts, bonus agreements, these type of. There's all kinds of things that are going to be in there that doesn't mean they should be there.
Yes. Hmm.
And we actually prefer to do these assessments with security professionals because if we do an assessment with you and I'm showing millions and millions in risk, then my only question to you is, you are a security professional. So what do you expect from everyone else in the company?
Yep. Exactly. Exactly. Like, kind of put your hands up and say, I don't know what to do. um,
Yeah,
I, I have a few more kind of like rapid fire questions that I
go
want to
for it.
ask you here too. And I know we're kind of coming up on time, so I want to be respectful of that as well. We're talking about a lot of what you do to work with companies who are, who maybe need to reclassify, reorganize their data just to be in a better position. Um, Looking ahead though, is there anything in kind of like the data world, any like updates with AI, any updates with maybe the tools that you work in, anything that excites you about the future of how data is classified and how you're able to operate?
I think the future is really bright, option wise. I just think we have to kiss a lot of frogs to find the prince or the
I like that.
princess, whichever one it was. But yeah, so there's, like I said, there's a lot of fluff out there,
Yeah.
and so companies really need to consider things like, when you hire a data processor like an AI agent, what does that mean for your strategy? Do you just want to give everyone access to your data or processing power?
Hmm.
Because the more we outsource, it also means we're outsourcing risk. If that vendor then gets hacked, or if there's something wrong with it,
Yeah.
you are going to suffer. So there's a lot of decisions on a strategic level that have to be made. Um, before we really getting to a point where here's where we want to be. And right now, there's a lot of big companies that make a lot of big promises, but there's very little deliveries.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of options out there. There's a lot of good options out there, but there's also, and I keep saying this, but there's a lot of fluff out there. And I think it's just going to have to mature a little bit, etc. I just hope it matures quickly
Hmm.
because other countries, like I said, they don't care about people's feelings or human rights or anything else. And whether we like it or not, that is going to be helpful in the long run.
Another rapid fire question. Do you hear when you are talking with clients or talking to companies out there, are there any common myths that you hear that you wish people would just kind of stop believing? Or is there anything out there where you're like, yeah, this is not true.
Yes,
Stop. Listen to me.
it's going to get me in trouble, but people think that Microsoft Purview is a data classification tool.
Okay.
And it's not. I can't mention any names, but we have a lot of conversation with people in Microsoft, and they're like, "Yeah, no, it's just a security tool."
Yeah.
But when you go a few levels down, and the account managers they go into their customers like, "Oh, of course we can do everything," so that one is kind of rubbing me the wrong way a little bit. Where it's kind of like, just be honest, say what you're good at,
Yep.
admit what you're not good at. You
Hmm.
don't have to do everything perfectly, and let's just work together and have fun because we're not replacing them, they're not replacing us.
Well, final question here. What do you think that companies can do today? As soon as they listen to our conversation that we've been having today, what do you think should be the first step for a company who either doesn't know the type of data that they have, or if they're wondering if they even need to? I'm sure the answer is yes, they need to do something about their data. But what's that first step that you would recommend to anyone as they start kind of going down the journey and analyzing what they have and what to do with it?
I mean, there's two things, right? You probably have existing vendors. They may have a sales team and everything else that they want to get in contact with.
Hmm.
That's the easiest, safe answer. Maybe the better option is just reach out to us, have a chat. We're pretty non-salesy. I'm happy to share a lot of my experiences and everything else because you can either build it yourself, which I can guarantee you isn't going to work. And I have many stories from many organizations that have tried it and they wasted years and years of time before they start working with organizations like us. Because even when you're looking into data discovery and data remediation, there's different things. There's
Hmm.
different things you need to consider in going it. So some people have a framework, the other ones have a complete tool. Some people only do one piece and then promise the other part, even though they don't.
Hmm.
And some of these things you're not going to find out till you bought it and start using it.
Yeah.
So my Dutch side in me will be very happy to share in the most direct, honest way possible. Here's the pros, here's the cons. Look out for this, look out for that. Um, I'm very happy to have a 30-minute chat with you if you guys want to, and then have a more of a conversation one-on-one. Absolutely.
That's perfect. Yeah. And I think that's a great place to end everything here. And we're going to leave all of Jaap's contact information and whatnot down in the description of the video and everything like that. That way, if you are interested in kind of learning a little bit more about what he and his team do, how they can help you, we'll make sure that we include all that down at the bottom. But I think that's a great place to wrap it up here. This is like
Awesome.
a fun, enlightening journey for me in a way. Like there's stuff that I knew, like, yeah, yes, you don't actually have relative connections, to the Prince of Nigeria, and they're not actually going to give you, $2.5 million. That's not actually going to happen. I knew that, but there's also, levels to data that I think a lot of people probably don't understand. And hopefully in hearing you today, now they at least have a little bit more awareness about it. Even if they don't fully understand everything that goes into their data, the data that they have, how it can be classified, what they need to do with it. At the very least, they understand, hey, I know that I have all of this. I need to start paying attention, or else, you know, you could risk fines, you could risk, breaches. Probably a lot more pain than there is, positives if you don't do
Absolutely.
anything about it. So, um, Yeah, thank you so much for joining me today. I really, really appreciate our time together.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.
Awesome, man. Thanks so much for your time.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.
Shout out once again to Jaap for spending some time with us for this fireside chat. If you have a favorite part that you enjoyed, feel free to leave a comment down below and let us know your thoughts on this chat with Jaap. Be sure to like the video, consider hitting the subscribe button, and turn on those notifications so you can be alerted when future chats go live on our channel. Thanks for listening, and as always, happy hunting.